Greetings from London. This is Maryum Sharif, and welcome to the Star Marvels podcast. This week, I'm joined by Amina Khan. She's a legal researcher from Scotland, and I met her on a TikTok live. She was talking about online safety for women. I'd like to welcome Amina Khan.
Thank you. So it's really nice to meet you finally.
Yes, exactly. So we met on TikTok whilst you were doing a live, and I was fascinated because you were discussing online safety. I find it fascinating as we are all online and how we need to kind of keep ourselves, especially as women, safer. But what I have noticed is the hatred against women compared to the men, and how women really get the brunt of it. And the world has become digital. Everybody seems to be online, but for some reason, everybody seems that they can say whatever they want online, and how to protect ourselves as women. So we're going to look at things like online safety bill, how to protect ourselves digitally, sharing of information, privacy in this podcast. Really interesting, and not only for the women, but also for the men, because there is accountability now. Let's start off with your work that you're doing. You are a legal researcher.
Yeah, so I graduated in law in Scotland, and then I went on to doing English law in England and Wales, English law. And from there, I've done various legal research work for both Scottish government and in England as well, which covers the whole of the UK as well. So technology's improved, people are online. And then there's lots of cases. And then, for example, someone takes it further, reports it to the police, and there isn't anything really within that, in that bracket to do anything. I was actually explaining to both men and women how to be safe, but also men in how to be careful. And that makes sense in terms of what they can and cannot say, and what they maybe don't realize what could then lead to a prosecution, and how the prosecution look at things as well online. So it's interesting because now there is options, but there isn't one umbrella under the safety bill yet. So what the report was about was to try and get an act in place to protect vulnerable people, such as women, and particularly women that fall under the protected characteristics umbrella. So that could be Black, minority, Asian women who are more targeted, and that's what came up in the report. So a lot of it would mention cases of high statistics of women from Black, minority, ethnic backgrounds, Muslim women, people with disabilities, not necessarily just women.
Yeah, I was more familiar and more in the know-how about bullying for children, online. And that was something that was very much talked about, discussed, and children are protected just because of age, because of their vulnerability, and it was really discussed in schools. Having, as adults, it's exactly the same thing, but people don't realize the actual impact of it all. And so what would you call abuse online? What does it look like?
When you say abuse online, I mean, I would break it down into who the abuse is being directed at. So if it's women, I would say then it comes under the scope of violence against women, without a doubt.
Yeah.
It's just a different form of it. It's a psychological way of abusing women online. Yes. So for me, personally, it would be come under the scope of violence against women. And it sounds quite harsh because you're thinking it's not violent, but it's psychologically impacting women. So that's my definition, and that's certainly the definition when we've been doing the research that keeps coming up. So it's a non-violent way to attack someone, because remember, when you attack someone online, it affects their mental state of mind. So there is still a physical element to.
Why do you think that people so easily can say something online and feel that they're not held to any there's no consequences? I think that's why there is so many people that can sit behind the keyboard and just type whatever they feel like.
At least certain platforms will not necessarily be under say, for example, the EU. So some of them might come from different, and like American platforms may have different legislation. Platforms from China might have different legislation. So I do think the platforms have to take accountability, because they know who's saying what when you're doing
Absolutely. If they're
copyright.
created by, yeah, if they're created by companies, then surely that they can alter the algorithms as well.
Yeah.
They can detect this.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but if you're on live, for example, I remember I was on live and I said Chanel, and I was told copyright, you know.
Oh,
So I
right.
was like, oh, okay. So talking about perfume. So yeah, there's someone monitoring it. So definitely the platforms have allowed an element of that to happen.
Yeah.
So therefore, perpetrators get away with it.
Such amazing women that I know that are influencers, they're leaders and speakers, who are absolutely phenomenal in what they do. And the abuse that they get just because they're a woman, they're a thought leader, they're a change maker, and men feel that they can ridicule or abuse women just because of their image, because of the way they look like.
I mean, let's say that they're male perpetrators, because I think what happens is it's become easier for them to hide, or they think they think it's easier. However, I do want to say that as soon as this piece of legislation is out there, it will then expand to EU, it will then expand to places like America, UNICO, and all the United Nations. They work and look at this type of legislation in each country. So they work together as well. So once a report's gone out, they will look at this and say, let's do something.
So this is the online safety bill.
Yeah.
Can you describe a little bit more in detail what this online safety bill, how will it protect women? If you can break it down.
Yeah, what we're looking at is basically prosecution and consequences. So they will use examples of cases that are perhaps not retrospectively, as in before the act comes into place, but from there onward. Both, they will make the platform accountable as well. So there will be an option for an individual to take action against the platform for not protecting them, because there's been cases I don't want to mention names because I know the person personally, a friend of my son's in America. You can Google this, you'll find it. A very famous gaming streamer, and he committed suicide because he was trolled to kill himself, and he did actually kill himself. Very famous boy. So in the same way, women are even more vulnerable online. So they made changes there to make people like Facebook accountable. So now in this bill, we will be looking at first and foremost the platform becoming more aware of what's going on. As we speak, platforms are already being advised to cut down on a lot of online. They know this is happening, so they're already being advised. As far as UK is concerned and the EU, they need to start being a lot more careful about the people who are online, because this is about to come into force. So when it comes into force, they'll be held accountable. The second thing is there's going to be criminal implications to the perpetrators, and they will be found. They can hide behind any account.
It's technology, isn't it? It's technology. Anyone can find anyone these days, and especially platforms such as that. So when you say they can be found and prosecuted.
Yeah. So for example, as we speak, the National Crime Agency have a team. So that's in the UK. The National Crime Agency is quite a robust government force. They're a lot more powerful than the police. So they work under the Home Office. So the National Crime Agency work on big cases. So they're working at the moment on cybercrime. So they're going to be working towards this as soon as the act comes into place. So their job will be basically to monitor perpetrators online, find them, and they've got all the technology obviously to break that down as to who the person is, and then there'll be criminal charges for that individual. That will be for violence against women online. So those will be the charges. So
no longer can you say anything that you feel like, right? You can't hate, you can't say first, like you said, it was more of a sexual or more life-threatening abuse or like a threat, but now you're saying that it's actually anything that you would say, anything abusive, and in what terms?
Okay, so given an example would be things that weren't taken seriously would be like, for example, a threat to share images.
Right.
So they don't have to share it, but then they just have to threaten to share it. So that wasn't necessarily a crime before.
So
It,
you can threaten to share a private picture that you've sent to someone, and they
if they've sent it, it's a crime. If they haven't sent it, but they say they've got pictures and they're going to send it, it's not necessary. It wasn't necessarily a crime because there was no evidence based on the fact that they had the image. It was just seen as a threat. And
right,
it wasn't taken seriously. Now it will be taken seriously. So even the suggestion of that would be taken
right,
seriously. Um,
right.
Also derogatory language towards women. So for example, and when some of it can be coercive control if it's someone you know. So if it's like a partner, ex-partner, or male family members, and they're trying to stop you from being online. So for example, they're contacting your contact list,
Yeah.
and there may be putting people off or making false allegations about you, that
Yeah.
comes under the scope of a violence against women as well, under coercive control, because they're trying to stop you from being online, from having a presence, from having a voice. So if they're found
That's
to,
fantastic. I
yeah,
mean,
so that's a big thing, and that's
yeah,
very common as well.
absolutely. That is, I mean, that is a real that's groundbreaking, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
definitely something to be really aware of, that women aren't, because it's not just, it's family members or friends, like, you saying that even your most immediate family friends could be doing something like that, and it's to stop them, and because that's where you feel uncomfortable, because the others online are strangers, they're not known to you. But when you have family members or somebody close to you doing that, then how do you tackle that? And that's a phenomenal part
yeah.
of the act.
Yeah. So that's that again, that will come under coercive control, but it's also a way of stopping women from becoming independent, having a voice,
Yeah.
promoting their business, even financially not doing well because they could be
Yeah.
online because they're trying to promote business.
Yeah.
So all of this, it's really good because it means that they will find out who they are, hold
Yeah.
them liable, see the messages, and then
Yeah.
bring it to court. So it's really good. It's quite a big change, and it was needed. It was really needed.
We were just discussing how women aren't tech savvy, and
Yeah,
so they wouldn't know about these things. So you've got 5 points on how to protect yourself online.
yeah. So I chose these 5 points, which I thought were really important for
Yes.
myself as well as for my
Part of
report.
your
So,
research.
yeah, but also
Yeah.
I used it myself because I wasn't doing it either. So
Right.
it's good to have this knowledge. So number
Yes.
one was passwords.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so it's really important that you change all your passwords if you have suspected any kind of online abuse, even if you
Right.
feel you're being directly attacked by trolls in
Right.
any way. I would take precaution and just change your passwords. So that would be emails, your phone passwords,
Right.
your accounts.
Yes.
And something that I didn't do that's really important, I found out later, was also change your password in your clouds. So if you've got a Samsung cloud or an Apple cloud,
Yeah.
change that password. Because if you've changed your emails, even your phone number, then the cloud password's still the same. A person can still get access to all your apps.
Right.
So
Right. Okay.
passwords is a big thing.
Absolutely. And I think that's
Yeah.
the first one. And I think with like, some of the email accounts that I have, you can change, it says periodically you should change your email, your password. Some people don't change at all because they're like, we want to keep one, we can't remember them. But it's absolutely paramount that you change. Yeah.
So this is something like within that. These are steps that are going to be advised to women who have been subjected to online abuse. The other thing that we say about passwords is don't stick to the same password for all your different accounts.
Yeah.
Make sure you've got different password. Try not to use common language in case people know. So you might be talking on live, like I might be talking about my cat Coco, and
Yeah.
people will assume that you're going to use Coco 786.
Yeah.
I'm just giving an example. So
that is not Amina's password, by the way.
so yeah, or your son or your child or your daughter's name.
Yeah.
So yeah, change that. Make
Yeah.
sure it's not your date of birth. Try to use numeric and
Yeah.
alphanumeric passwords, so both.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
this is a big thing. So yeah, passwords. Second is privacy settings.
Okay.
So on each and every app, not just your browser privacy settings, go into each app and on each social media app, change the privacy settings to make sure that you're not visible to everyone. Even things like who your contact list is. So when you're on, I don't know, TikTok,
Yes.
you can remove who you're following. Or who's following you. You can change things in Facebook about who your friends list is. So change these things. So privacy settings.
Yeah.
Also things I noticed on TikTok under the privacy settings, you can change videos that you like. And what happened in some of the cases was that people were monitoring that and then stalking the people that they may be communicating with. So change your privacy settings. That's the second one. The third P would be personal information. So just like I just said, try not to, and I do it as well, mention your children's names when you're on live social media, your cat's name, personal information like your date of birth. Like now, of course, you're not going to give someone your date of birth, but you might tell them when your birthday is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you would be so surprised how easily people can find out your details.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a big one for me. And and it's definitely something that is so easily done. And you do it just through conversation because you just think, oh, this is, and then you think, well, that should never be done. You know, people shouldn't. And like you said, it's a very easy way to find out something.
Yeah. So even things like also personal information, if you're on a social media platform, one of the things that we came across, again, because when we're doing research, we look at case studies where errors have been made. So it was like someone's on social media and then they've given that person their WhatsApp or their email address. Be careful with people that you don't know. Strangers, because that's a way of them, they can send you links and hack into your devices. So don't willy-nilly give out your email address. So personal information can also mean your phone number, your email address. Certainly, I would say the phone number is a big thing. Your address. Again, we might not give our whole address, but we might tell someone what area we live in. We might show pictures of our front door.
Yeah.
And it's got the number on it.
I think it was in Dubai that I saw it, but it happens everywhere. When I was living out there, how this guy said that he's on holiday and he's going on holiday, and then he got his house got burgled. Because they knew where he was. And they thought, well, if no one's home, then his house got burgled. And I was like, well, it's so, you have to be careful. I mean, there's a fine line, isn't it? And what you tell and what you disclose and what information, it's up to you how much you want to tell the world, really, isn't it?
There are things that you can carry on. If it's business, for example, women are doing business, they don't need to reveal their home address, the details of where they live, what age they are. They don't need to reveal their star sign if you're doing a business, page. It's not necessary to reveal exactly the area you come from. You know, you might want to say I'm from such.
I think if you're promoting local businesses and if you're within that locality, then absolutely. But I think if it's not professional, you see, professional and personal, very different, isn't it? So I think personally, we, like you said, we voluntarily give out so much information, but that could be misused. Professionally, we're a little bit more reluctant, aren't we? We're like, okay, let's just stick LinkedIn. But when we were thinking about any other connecting with somebody, it's like, give me your IG handle, and that's it. You know, it's so easy to actually, it's replaced, I would say, even WhatsApp. You know, it's like, oh, I'll find you on social media rather than give, you know.
So but specifically with strangers is what I'm saying, like when you're online, to be careful. So that's with regards to personal information. Profiles. So the profiles was more about looking at the background of your profile. And it's things like I was saying, like if you've got profile pictures and your front door showing the number, you've got pictures with your family, your whole, and again, it's difficult when it's personal, but all of that information, you don't have to say it verbally. It tells people your whole personal info without them. For example, I might have something on about my car, but I won't have my car registration number.
Yeah, I was just about to say car registration, because that's the first thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
that everybody protects.
You're taking a video. Someone did this, and they didn't realize there was a letter with their address on it when they were taking a video. So profile pictures, these kind of things is really, so your profile is really important. Also within your profile, again, is it really necessary? Unless, for example, maybe people like you and I are promoting, women independence or whatever, is it really necessary for all women to say, I live on my own and no one lives in my house?
Yeah.
Because like you said, then the next time we post a video live and we're outdoors, people know no one's in my house. I'm telling them I'm on my own. Or when I'm on my own at nighttime, there's nobody here. So profile means all of that as well. The profile, your pictures, how much information you're giving out. It tells perpetrators the story of you that you can't even say out from, like you're not saying it verbally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's certainly a big thing. So the fifth one was padlock. So it sounds silly, right? But this is my definition. And I did this because I found it through all the research. So it was lock and key everything. Everything you've got, keep it under lock and key.
For example,
secure. So your website, maybe you might not want to do this, but I have a secure web browser. So what that means is I will actually get a VPN for my phone on my laptop, because it protects me from being hacked and trolled. And I think it's worth doing.
Yes, the VPN is fantastic, actually. People don't know about it.
People don't know, and people are very tech savvy. Other people are very tech, not me. I am now, but people don't realize how easy people can hack into things. So VPN, padlock in terms of your house and everything as well. Make sure you're on live. When you're on live and you're out the house, your house needs to be 100% secure. Your car needs to be, make sure you're locking your car doors. It sounds so silly, but your social media presence also means that you're a target for people who are looking to opportunist and criminal opportunists, as well. So for example, like your car, your house, your belongings. So things like you're online and you're showing maybe your jewelry, if that makes sense. Keep it
exactly the same case as Kim Kardashian, right? So she was in Paris, and then she was there for Fashion Week, I think, and then she was saying, "Oh, I bought these jewels, this is what I'm gonna wear," and so then she got, and I don't know if it was a social media scam, it was like for publicity, but I don't think any woman would put her life in danger, and she has children, and I mean that's a bit far-fetched. So I do believe those words that, the fact that she posted something, and this is the thing, isn't it? Like she didn't realize that somebody will be looking, think, okay, that's great opportunity to get her. Let's get those jewels.
Are online.
So,
criminal opportunists
all the time.
All
absolutely.
the time. So we do it, like for example, we might have taken a video, we were at a wedding, we had jewelry on. So padlock meaning maybe people have seen that. So when you get back, make sure it's secure. So some of the things, I don't know what other people do with jewelry, but we keep ours under padlock. Some people have even got bank safety deposits for very expensive items. I would say it's worth doing, because if you are going to be on social media and you are going to be showing that you've got certain things, people are going to be looking to target you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody should get a safe deposit box anyway, but if those who haven't and have valuables at home, then definitely I think that's first thing you should do, and I think we're in this culture, isn't it, like for social media, we want to show everything, we want to just tell the world what we do, and I just think it can be done very tastefully as well. When somebody's flying, they're going to show their passport, and I was like, I don't want to see your details, but it's literally everything is on show. And I think there's a certain you should set yourself boundaries on what you want to. I always find social media, you can tell the world as much as you want to or as little as you want to. And then I'm going to give you the example of Gary Vee. Gary Vee has never showed his family, his children, his, you know, his wife. He's shown his father because he does business with his father. But other than that, then he doesn't disclose anything personal. Gary Vee doesn't show anything personal. It's all about work. It's all about business. And everybody says, well, why don't we see your personal life? Because you don't need to. And that's basically it.
Yeah,
you
and
don't need to know about my personal life. Are you going to marry me?
it's difficult. I mean, I don't disagree with people who are on there for social reasons. I was really proud of myself when I changed my car, and I wanted to other women to say, look, if you work hard, you can get. I had nothing. I got this. However, be careful how. So, in conjunction with that, I made sure that all my online links to my car stuff and my keys are in. You know, my spare keys locked away in a locked cupboard, things like that. You need to then add extra security if you're going to display certain things. That's all I'm saying. So yes, you can do it. Just make sure that you back it up. And documents as well. Make sure that documents like passports, birth certificates, marriage, anything at all like that, that can be something that people target online to steal as well. Data can be stolen from people and it's used. It can be used for false documents. So make sure that your personal data is locked away in a locked stored cabinet. It's not always things of monetary value that people look for. So that's something definitely, again, under the padlock kind of points that was sort of made as well about documents as well.
Something, Amina, that I wanted to share with you and the audience. And so I've only recently started TikTok, and I think it was my first kind of couple of weeks on there. And I decided to post something about my work that I've done. I worked for the Her Royal Majesty's Prison Service as a teacher, as an IT teacher. And I was saying that I was the youngest female Muslim to work in the Southwest region. And so, and in that video, I'd also put a text that now I had the first image consultancy, and I've been in fashion and styling for, more than 15 years. And I had this one person comment on that video, oh, you don't look that young. And I was like, and then I went back on her profile and I thought she's a manifester and feminine healing coach or something about women empowerment. And I wrote back to her and I said, well, if you're all those things, no matter what I look like or my age or whatever, why would another woman want to not uplift? And why would you want to be condescending in a comment? And especially because your profile says that it's all about empowerment and women, femininity, and so she was trying to be a coach or a healer or something. And I was like, your words and your profile does not align. And you saying that to me shows me that there's no coherency. It doesn't match. And so she came back and said something really interesting. She said, if you can't take it, why are you on social media?
Oh God, I hear this all the time.
And I thought to myself, take what? Like, I'm just responding to what you just told me. And I'm just telling you that you are a healer and a femininity coach or whatever she was. I couldn't remember, but she was something to do with women empowerment. And I said, your words and your profile do not match. Because you would never say anything that to me, because women, or I, knowing that I work in women's societies and clubs, a woman of value would never say anything derogatory, condescending to another woman, and especially about looks. What's looks got to do with it? And she specifically said about age, and I was like, well, I am in my 40s. Who gives a shit about that? No, I'm in my 40s. It doesn't matter. But the fact is that having her say, well, if you're online, if you can't take it, this is what she said, if you can't take it, then you shouldn't be on social media.
No.
How should we approach someone like that?
No, that's what hopefully the new laws on online safety and violence against women will tackle, is that type of attitude.
First of all, it's an attitude, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's how to correct the mentality. Yeah, the attitude of even women. I see it all the time that your own community doesn't actually support you.
Well, I think I'm the epiphany of that because where I'm from, I'm pretty much detested for my work that I've done for the Scottish Government because I promoted something really quite big that made changes in the psychological abuse fact of the Domestic Abuse Act. And my report went pretty viral, pretty high up to the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Services, who then really dipped back down to England. And as a result of that, there was quite a number of they actually made it retrospective, that particular element that I was looking at, which was honor killings, and honor killings is quite serious and honor-based abuse. And there was a few high court prosecutions as a result of it. And I wasn't the only one, if that makes sense, that went ahead. I wasn't the judge and the jury. You know, I only helped towards create a better understanding. And I focused 2 years on my legal research on this to make sure it happened. So what you're saying, I was not just targeted for my community, I was targeted from women in my community. That's un-Islamic. So it had nothing to do with being a feminist. It was to do with abuse. And I don't believe that our religion condones any form of abuse, whether it's online. And I don't think, when someone says to you now, I don't know about you, but now when someone says to me, and they do say it quite a lot, which is, don't go online then if you don't like what you get, or you don't get like the abuse. I say, I refer them to something, and it's a bit in your face, but that's the only way I can sort of explain it. So there's a campaign about sexual abuse and sexual assaults, and I don't know if you've seen it, but on that campaign, there was a picture of a child in a nappy, a woman in a bikini, a woman in granny pants, etc., etc., and each one of it says, "Did I ask for it?" So I say to them, refer to that, then come back and tell me why you understand that I'm saying that you can't victim blame towards women who are being abused online. Because that was the attitude many years ago about women being sexually assaulted, which is that if you wear this, then you asked for it.
Yeah, you asked for it.
So now with the campaigns and the awareness, that's changed. So now I'm trying to make it kind of more, this attitude, kind of make it more kind of out there, like make people understand that it's not okay, men and women, that well, when you see that now, you say, oh God, no, I wouldn't say that. Well, in the same context, what you're saying is very similar. You're saying that women deserve to be victims of abuse, whether it's online or in whatever context, just because they're present. So they should lock themselves up in a hole and not come out, you know? So it's the same kind of concept and attitude.
Such a double standard between men and women, especially from Asian Arab communities. I find that a woman does the same thing that a man does, and she gets hated for, and a man does it and he's applauded, you know? So it's very different.
It's not religion, because the religion doesn't, it's not even, I don't even like to use the word culture. I just think it's an attitude that needs to be changed. I don't, because
like you said, awareness and understanding. I don't think people have an understanding, and hopefully this podcast will create more understanding on how to protect online, and what to do. What do you do if you have suffered abuse and hate online? What are the steps would you take?
So right now, although don't think because the law isn't been enacted yet that you can't do anything.
And when are we looking at the law to be?
I mean, it could be like within the next few months. However, that doesn't mean you can't report it now and it won't be looked at. Does that make sense? Because cases can take a year to a year. So what I would say is report it. So report it. If you're not sure, contact an organization. So you can contact organizations like Muslim Women's Network, even just reach out to a local support organization, a women's support organization who can guide you, and they can give you advice if you're not confident to report it yourself. So wherever you are, do try to report it, because if it becomes psychologically, you know, kind of damaging to your mental health, and you find yourself coming away from it, then they will help you and take steps to say, well, this is how we need to progress with this.
Okay, so if you don't have the courage, or if you're not able to, not even courage, but you're not in that position to report it individually, then contact an organization and they will help you report that.
They will help you take
Yeah.
steps to report
Yeah.
it or signpost you to someone who can assist
Yeah.
you. They'll give you
Yeah.
some tips on things like please keep evidence, take screenshots, keep evidence, anything you've seen online, take pictures, keep it, because you might not know who the person is behind or the troll behind the computer, but they can find out. So yeah, do that.
And if it surprises me that knowing that you can be found, people still continue to do it.
People don't think they can be found though. People are quite ignorant. I still get
You think
messages
so? But I
sometimes.
think with the advancement of technology, surely in 2022, if someone just believes that they cannot be found, where are they living?
They think if some people, for example, like a lot of trolls do have VPNs and things, so they think that no one can find them. Between me and you, maybe at this moment in time, no, but when they get investigated by the police, then the
Yeah.
cyber teams can then find them. They
Yeah.
just don't think that you're going to get investigated. They're quite narcissistic in their mentality. They don't think
Yes.
you've got the courage to do it
Yeah.
either, so they don't think they're going to get caught, if that makes sense. That's
Yeah.
the criminal psychology behind it, is they don't think that you're going to be powerful enough to speak up.
There's so much talked about haters and hate online, but no one talks about the psychological effect that the person goes through. And people do slightly say it, but it's like somebody's moaning, or they don't want to say it because everybody expects that you will get hate, that you will get haters. And this is just part of the work that you do. Ignore it or delete and block. But now you would say if someone is trolling you, they're sending you abuse and hate, never to delete something.
I would say log everything, write
Yeah.
a journal. Like a journal just means notes. Take pictures before you delete anything, then block them.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I'm just because I'm thinking about what else can we do.
So when you're reporting it also, I just want to say, don't be disheartened just because the first time nothing has happened.
Yeah.
Sometimes police don't get back to you, or the person might have a pattern of behavior. So don't be disheartened and think they don't care.
Women's confidence in the police and in the service is quite low. Well, how do we give confidence to women to report an act of hate or abuse?
That's why I said the women's organizations, because in line the following month after the online bill report, there was I was at the AGM with other parliamentarians, Baroness Uden, the Ministry of Justice, and we were then discussing the victims bill. That's in line with that, so that we understand what victims need, and that includes victims who are victims of online abuse.
Okay, so can you explain more about the victims bill? What does that include? The
victims bill is to create an understanding to likes of Ministry of Justice. It involves parliamentarians, House of Lords, and everyone. So that was the meeting I was at just this month, and that was to create an understanding that victims are not treated fairly. I don't want to put people up, but what I mean is, like, when you're reporting, you're not heard, your voice isn't heard, or you're treated differently.
This is what I'm saying. There's no trust really in the service,
or the police aren't
in the police. Yeah, there's no trust in the police these days. So how does one?
Yeah. So one of the reasons I didn't give you a date for the act is because one of the first things that needs to happen with the online safety bill is the police need to get trained. So once the police training and everything's happened, and all the research that's gone into it then goes back into a document, a training document, and the police and different first response teams, local authorities, they're all trained on it then. And then this is why the victims bill has come at a good time, because now the victims bill is creating an understanding about the needs for particularly South Asian women, Black minority ethnic women, and what their needs are as victims. So for example, we give examples in the report of like statistics of sexual abuse cases not being progressed, online violence against women not being taken seriously. Why are women targeted from our background? Because there's a shame element involved as well. So that's a first target to women like us is shame. Like a non-Muslim woman might not feel that same element of shame if someone points it out. So this is what the victims bill is covering. It's covering to create an understanding to all these organizations to make changes so that when police come out, when organizations are involved, when the judges, the CPS, when they're involved in your reporting, they're going to really understand what's going on with you psychologically, your background, because of these reports and the research that's been done. And it's come at a really good time. So have faith now that things are changing.
Because women have been suffering for a very long time, and firstly, they don't know how to recognize it. And once they do recognize it, it's actually just voicing that, isn't it? And giving them the courage that there will be repercussions. So I'm talking in terms of, can they be sentenced? Can be imprisonment?
So that's what we're looking towards, sentencing. There'll be criminal charges, they'll have a criminal record if they've breached that aspect or that section of the act. So whatever section that might be, it might be hate crime, it might be coercive control, but it's been done online. So it's been done verbally, abusively online. Whatever section of that act that comes under, they'll be charged accordingly by the police. They'll then, obviously the CPS then take that further, it goes to court, and that person will then face charges. They might be given a community sentence, they might be given a sentence in prison. It depends on the background, remember. If the person's already got a background and a pattern, that's why I'm saying log and take note, because that person might have a pattern.
And you might have just, yes, exactly. Yeah. So if he's in the system, or her, or it could be any, because it could be abuse from women and men. What I'm saying is that it could be the fact that they're already in the system. They're already been
be in the
reported.
System. Yeah. Or someone else might be suffering at the exact same time, and they've been doing it to several women at the same time. So their sentencing will be longer. They could be incarcerated for quite some time because they were seen as dangerous individuals as well. So psychologically, it becomes in the public interest then to make sure that they're punished accordingly, which then will mean they're not allowed to just get off with a community sentence.
No one can get away with abuse or hate online, and the consequences are that you could get a criminal record. You could get community service, imprisonment. Fine doesn't really do anything.
I don't think they'll just get off with a fine.
No, I don't think.
Not if it's been I don't think if it's
it's not a speeding ticket. It's something different.
They're looking at fines for the platforms. They're looking at potential fines for the platforms, because obviously for them that's going to hit them hard. So
and sometimes it baffles me that why haven't all of these platforms taken more control of what goes out there? Surely they can do it. So why not? Why don't they do this?
See,
why does this allow to happen?
I it's good that I can speak in theory here, because normally I can't. But theory, if you're asking me in my opinion, I think it's because they like drama. I think it creates more content.
More content, more users, more online time. Exactly.
Have you noticed that they push the algorithm pushes drama? And particularly from people from our community, and it can be quite horrific sometimes, and they push that content so that thousands of people are viewing it, and someone else might be deemed as being boring, so they're not pushing their content.
Well, exactly. It's known, isn't it? Entertainment content will be more viral, will get more airtime rather than something educational, something that is educational and actually helps to stimulate someone's mind won't get as much views, because it's just not. That needs to change.
That's my theory, but in terms of fact, that's what the online safety bills going to include as well. In terms of platforms and what's expected of them, is they're going to have to change their algorithm in the sense that they reduce the number of abusive language, content, derogatory language towards women and children and things like that, sexually abusive comments.
This is a huge, people don't understand, this is a huge impact on how social media online presence will be, and how careful you have to be with words, with what you say. The implications of what you say can now be, you will be charged, and you will not be able to escape from it.
There's still, when I was on that live, I had someone saying to me, I think we need to increase more violence online. Let's see what you're going to do about it. I had someone literally say that to me. when I was talking about
how
this.
can you even say that? Did you should have taken a screenshot straight away? But
I did take a screenshot. I said, I look forward to you appearing in court one day.
Thank you very much. You're messing with the wrong woman. You're
But
messing with the wrong woman, you know. And again, I think it's ignorance where people don't realize that they're going to say something and not have any consequences. There's no accountability, like, and especially, I have to say it, for our own community, they don't realize you can say something and like get away with it now. You can't say that anymore.
And the only exceptions to the rule will be people who have got certain mental health conditions.
Right. Okay. So everybody's going to plead insanity, are they?
Well, my concern, my concern is when I was doing things like the Psychological Abuse Act, when I was doing the honor-based abuse.
That sounds really interesting. Can you explain a little bit more about that? What you just said?
So honor-based abuse is when there are multiple perpetrators targeting one individual.
Right.
So it could be a domestic abuse scenario where it's you and your partner. In the UK, in all of the UK and EU, domestic abuse means your partner or your ex-partner. Yeah. However, it doesn't include extended family members. But honor-based
Can I just go back to what you just said? So it's not just your partner, but your ex-partner.
Yeah.
So even though he's an ex, he's still...
That comes under the scope of domestic abuse, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could press charges against an ex-partner under historical claims. Yes, absolutely. That's been going on for quite a while. However, there wasn't anything in place that covers extended family members.
Right, okay.
And that in the South Asian community was a big problem, especially in light of many honor killings, even right here in the UK. If anyone looks at hashtag say my name, you'll find a whole host of women just this year and last year being murdered as a result of domestic abuse or honor killings, or even just under the domestic abuse scope of crimes, unfortunately. So if you look at that, they will have a whole host of abuse that hasn't been looked at, which is involving in-laws, family members, maybe the mother, maybe the sister, and people in the community as well. So that's what honor-based abuse is. It's basically involving the other perpetrators that are involved in the act of abuse.
You mentioned the psychological...
Sorry, it was a psychological abuse, but that was in Scotland. That was in Scotland. Right.
Okay.
It's now being covered in England and Wales under coercive control. So it's just a...
Can you explain a little bit about that and what it means?
So coercive control, I'm just going to say the words from the CPS that said it to me the other week. So coercive control is when someone stops you from doing something, either causes panic through intimidation, through threats, or through emotional blackmail. So it doesn't need to be violent. It doesn't need to be physical. But when they stop you from, it could be come off social media, I don't want you on it. It could be, I don't want you dressing in a certain way. And that's remember, we're talking about choice. So where there's not a choice, where you're not given a choice at all, it can come under the scope of spending money, how to eat, sleep, exercise, particularly isolation. So that means not allowing you to speak to family and friends. And we're not talking about one friend, she's not very nice, don't speak to her, because she annoys you. We're talking pretty serious, like complete isolation from people who you speak to, and you're only surrounded by I shouldn't say the word perpetrator, that's just my language, but the person who's controlling you, they only keep you around their circle, only. So you've been isolated from people that you want to be around, anyone, family, friends, anyone. So that comes under, that's what they call coercive control, because it can be done through emotional blackmail. It can be done because you think it's a religious obligation and it's not, or because you feel you can't stand up, speak up, there's too many other voices. Also what happens in honor-based abuse as well, because you've got other family members that get involved. So when I was saying the exception to the other issue, the online abuse, I'm a bit not happy about this kind of under the Mental Health Act. The reason I'm saying that is because in honor-based abuse cases, one of the things that came up quite a bit was that the perpetrators would specifically look for family members or friends that have got mental health conditions to target that person in order to get off with their actions. So they would threaten the individual and intimidate them and purposely use someone who's deemed as having mental health conditions.
Yeah.
So it's quite a clever tactic. It's called triangulation. So it's like a triangle. This person is doing this, goes to that person, and you go around in a triangle.
Yeah.
And that's part of both honor-based abuse and psychological. Reason we're saying psychological abuse is because it affects your mental health.
Hence the psychological effects of online abuse. How do you quantify that? There's no measure to that. And so to protect women for that's brilliant.
I think what women need to do whenever they're suffering is reach out to organizations, because they will log everything for them as well.
Yeah.
If you're suffering abuse, I mean, people will say, oh, there's no physical evidence, but there is. Because see, when you've had a panic attack, or you're scared, or you've come offline, or you've logged something, every time you speak to someone, that person can be your voice.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
It's kind of your witness, I guess,
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. A witness to what's happened.
Yeah.
And also when you're on the phone to that person, they can hear you. They may be trained to understand there's things that can be identified by psychologists, like their voice, for example, trauma as a result of online abuse. So people scared and panicky because they've been threatened online, that kind of thing. So changes in behavior would be a big one. Definitely. It's not just vulnerable women. When I was doing my research, female reporters are one of the highest targeted victims of online abuse.
I was actually watching a documentary with a reporter from Panorama, and the effects of online abuse that she gets, and she was in tears, and she said she's human. Why and how can it not affect her? We are all human, and we forget that. When people say it's always just words, just ignore them, but words are really damaging, aren't they?
Yeah, it's not that simple. I get mentor support and mental health support right the way through everything I do, because wherever it affects me personally, or it's directed at me, it's not something I can just brush off. I can't. I need support to help me through it. It's not easy not to feel anything. I think that there's a word for people that don't feel anything, and they're psychopaths. So you're not a psychopath, so you will feel something.
Exactly. I find that men put themselves out online. I've been watching the TikTok lives, and we're referring to TikTok only because we met there, but I do find that men just are so, if not happy, they're quite proud to be online, and they feel that they can say and do anything, and there's just no accountability. And women are a little bit more cautious. Of course, they've got families, they've got children, they feel that they have to be a little bit more reserved, but only reserved because of the reactions from men in our community. And I'd have to say men in our community, because that's where it comes from. I've seen it and I've experienced it. And so you don't get it from any other community, but you would get it from your own. And then I think that's something that needs to kind of stop and create understanding.
I think we need to also stop the rhetoric telling women that being a Muslim, you shouldn't be online, because there is no comparison to being online and not being Islamic.
When you've just said that, my ex stopped me from being online. Don't be online. It's not Islamic. I didn't even use my own name. Even when I had this big organization for women, I had to use another name. I would use my nickname, Max, not to say using your name. Oh, don't use my name. Don't want to be associated. And I was like, I'm not even doing anything. I'm just helping women. I'm working with women. I'm with women. I'm going for lunch and helping them communicate, and we're educating each other on socialize. And what's wrong with it? But there's always a threat. Don't do this and don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. And so I can completely relate to that. I think anything, you hear all these Twitter messages, and people said this and people said that. Oh, I was drunk when I did this, or I didn't know what I was saying. And you know, and Twitter for sure, you know, is one that everybody hears about. That they know that if you've said something, that's it. You can't remove that.
Don't worry too much about what the CPS is going to make of it. Does that make sense? Like, we all do that. We overthink sometimes, like, oh, maybe they were just didn't mean it. Maybe they were drunk. The thing is, let the authorities decide, because they will look in, they'll know if it's just a case of it wasn't directed at you, it was a drunken episode, you know. But if it's affected you, report it. Then if it happens again, then they'll see a pattern.
Yeah. And I think, how do you determine when to report it, you know?
I think yeah, that's what I mean when I say don't worry too much about what the authorities might think, if it's genuine.
If you feel you felt that uncomfortable, you felt that there was a threat or an insult, how do you, somebody might say, well, you know, you just, like you said, overthinking it, you've made it into Everest, you know?
I mean, like I said,
because because men especially, or let's just say people like to belittle women with thinking that, oh, you know, it's all in your head, you're overthinking, it's nothing, you know.
But that's part of gaslighting. Gaslighting's a perfect example of when people tell you you've been punched in the face, they say no, you didn't, you fell. So it's just a tactic. So don't overthink too much about what people are going to think by you reporting it. If it's not the case, if it's not what it is, if it's not a threat, they might go and look and speak to the person anyway. And then at least it means in future they'll be more careful, you know. And also, like I said, there are perpetrators online, so majority of them are probably doing it to many other women. You won't be alone. I think one of the biggest things we need to say to women is you're not alone. You're not the only person it happens to. It happens to a lot, and the person's probably done it before and going to carry on doing it. Sometimes not reporting it can mean they're just continuing, they'll move on to someone else.
And so the more we keep things to ourselves, the less you will be able to kind of have that understanding and make awareness. So we should report and we should create awareness for this topic.
100%, because that's going to impact you for the rest of your life when you're being threatened and blackmailed.
Recently just saw this documentary, a doctor from the NHS, and part of her social media was to create awareness about COVID. She had so much hate from people, from conspiracy theorists to people who didn't agree with the vaccine. And if you believe it or not, you agree with the vaccine or not, she got attacked so brutally that she was like threats to her life. She said that people said, we're going to rape you, and we're going to assault you, and then you're going to have to be on a ventilator yourself. You know, it was just the most disgusting things. And so you've got an NHS doctor who's being abused for saving lives or creating awareness on her social media, and she was threatened.
I mean, that's something that can obviously be progressed in terms of the police, in terms of a crime. I mean, it is a crime to do that. Obviously, when the Online Bills Act becomes enacted as an act, then there'll be different sections of the act that will cover each and every detail, like an actual threat of rape, or, for example, like you said, or like when you said a ventilator, that might come under this section where they discuss like the threat of life, like death threats. There's different elements. So when that comes into place, it'll be broken down. It'll be clearer then. So when police come out, they can just charge the person on that section. But that's where I think moving forward it's going to be a lot easier, rather than them just determining whether the threat is serious or not. But it is still really important to report it, because women shouldn't be targeted just because they've got a voice. It's it's not acceptable. Image sharing is now illegal in terms of sharing of images.
Can you tell us more about that?
So if someone's taking pictures of you, even if you know them, it's your partner, ex-partner, whoever, even if you gave it to them, if they actually passed the image on to someone else, if they shared it, that's a crime.
Is that in a personal relationship, or it could be anyone? How do you define that?
Whoever you've given the image to. And the reason I'm saying whoever, sometimes people aren't in a relationship when they share an image.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Let's talk about something then. So I've just joined online dating, right?
Yeah.
Which reluctantly I didn't want to. And
Yeah.
I've shared an image. If that person then shares that image to someone else, is that a crime?
Yes. Yes. Because they can't share and it's quite
You know,
detailed.
like we do, when we say to our friends, oh God, check this guy out.
The image has to be indecent.
Ah, that's
yeah.
what we're saying. Okay.
Okay.
So let's just reframe that. So sharing images of a partner or anyone that is indecent. What can you explain what indecent or inappropriate is? Can you
what I
define
mean
that?
is, like you said, you might be online dating, but you haven't met the person, but you might send them a picture of yourself in your underwear. So it
Right.
happens. Okay. That picture, even if it's not naked, if it's in your
Sorry,
underwear.
stop there. Sorry. Not that I've done it, but
It's funny, but it has to be.
I'm just now thinking all the people that I'm online with. Okay, all right. I have to take a breath there.
Take a deep breath. I'll have a drink of coffee.
Okay. I think this is quite an interesting one. You know what? Yeah, because we've looked at professionally how to protect ourselves, but like we don't think twice when we're online and with online dating, for example. We so freely want to know somebody and share that information about ourselves with that person. And would you share that same amount of information if you met that person in real life? You'd also definitely make a judgment call. Do I want to? Do I feel a vibe? Do I feel even connected to this person? But somehow online, because we're trying to create this connection with someone, we like you said, we disclose more, we say more.
I think what I want to say is it's okay if that's what you do with someone, because it's about consent, isn't it? If you choose to share your picture with someone and you're fine with that, that doesn't mean that you give them permission to give it to someone else. So I think first and foremost, don't feel that you can't report it because you feel shame that you did something wrong in the first place, because that's not what the law says. The law doesn't judge you as a Muslim or as a Pakistani or a woman. The law says it's a crime, and that's all that matters. If that makes sense.
Can you so some women that have been suffering or have suffered years of this abuse, can they still report it now because they feel that, oh, it was such a long time ago and we've moved on and whatnot? They can still log
because
that?
they can still log it, because although indecent image sharing was still kind of in the pipeline a few years ago, it was around 2016 it started, but it still sort of identifies as one of them crimes that was used to threaten people. Also, it might have been used in conjunction with other crimes, as in the guy's being in trouble for domestic abuse or something else, or swearing at her, or communication, like for a threat of something. And then on top of that, he also threatens to share her indecent images. So there's likely to be a pattern as well. So what the CPS do is they'll find the most serious offenses and they'll add that into it, if that makes sense. So report everything and don't feel ashamed, because you're not doing anything wrong. What I'm trying to create here for women is an awareness of that they didn't do anything wrong. So although it's embarrassing that you might have given another male a picture of you nude or in underwear, there's no shame in that. However, if he passes that picture on to anybody, he's committed a crime, even if you voluntarily give him that picture.
Okay.
He can't say, but she gave it to me. I didn't take it, and I didn't take it without her consent. People are misunderstand that the fact that there is a difference between whether it's consensual or not. So even though you give consent to him holding that picture of you, you did not give him consent to give the picture to someone else, and that's what constitutes a crime.
And what is the penalty or result of that?
So the person would be, I mean, I can't tell you what the judges, it depends on each individual's background. Does that make sense? So each person, but it does involve sentencing. It could be from 6 months.
Has there been a case that is?
There is cases ongoing at the moment for indecent image sharing. At the moment, there are quite a few cases. They're not straightforward because the indecent image sharing then comes under the scope some of it comes under the scope of domestic abuse as well. So because that's a threat as well within the domestic abuse, what's happening in these cases is the women have maybe reported them for domestic abuse or sexual abuse, and then they've threatened to share their images. Does that make sense? In the public domain?
Yes.
Or in the community.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
So that's what's happened, and then as a result of that, they've added it onto the crimes have already been charged with. Does that make sense? So it's not just that, they're adding it into the crimes have already been charged with.
Yes.
Okay, let's just to give an example, and because I've been looking up on this recently, and I know there's a lot of females now on OF, and I didn't know what OF was.
I don't even know what OF is. What is it?
Is it called OF? I keep saying the wrong thing. Hopefully I'm saying the right thing.
What is it?
I think it's called OnlyFans or OnlyFriends.
Oh, yes. OnlyFans. Yes.
So apparently that is a site where women sell their images. I think each picture that's shared gets so many credits and they get paid for it.
Okay.
So this is what happens. However, it's private. So you see,
so somebody in that private OnlyFans cannot share an image that to the public, anyone else.
Exactly. They can't post it in the public domain. Even in that scenario where someone is, remember, historically, judges would have seen that as, oh, the woman's selling her pictures. But no, not now. That's not the case. Now there's an understanding that even in that type of scenario, it's about consent. You didn't give A consent to share it with B. It's not allowed. I believe there are a couple of TikTok influencers who are on OnlyFans pursuing cases of that nature, that people have shared their OnlyFans pictures without their consent on TikTok, and they're got private OF accounts.
Is that a criminal offense?
Yeah,
that would be
that's like, again, it's an indecent sharing. Also, the picture doesn't have to be nude. It can be in underwear. I just want to give a quick example of one individual. I don't have to mention the name, but it's over with now. But there's an individual who was portraying himself as a personal trainer.
Right, okay.
Online. He was a personal trainer, I think, but it doesn't matter. He targets women who are vulnerable online. He sussing them out. Maybe there's information. Maybe they're talking about weight gain, motivate, whatever. He targets them. He offers them free advice. He offers to train them. Before seeing them physically, he doesn't meet them at first. He builds a rapport, talks about diet, health, how to lose weight, etc. He then, once being a bit friendly with them, he was then going, and this is like hundreds of women, right?
Okay.
He was then asking them to send a picture of their body.
Oh, because you would think that it was for it was for fitness reasons. So for the one, he wants to see your physique.
Yeah, but when you're reading the case, you can imagine, right? Sirens are going off, because then what he says is, no, I need to see you in your underwear because I can't see where the fat is in your body. And do one on both sides, like front, back, side. So he's telling them to send them. Yeah. Now it's really kind of like, it's so easy to get caught in that cycle.
You wouldn't, if you would think somebody is a professional trainer, would
you
they
trust
really
them?
want that? And because some people could be persuaded, and sometimes you wouldn't think twice of it, right? And you think, oh, okay, that's
No, I think by the time he asked for them, he had built a rapport.
He'd already built a yes.
He's given
good communication.
Them quite a lot of communication, advice. He's built a trust.
So they've got confidence in him.
Yeah,
by this point,
he might even use things like, it's Friday, I'm going to pray. Oh. So you automatically assume it's. I would have as well. I would have recently fallen for it. I'm not going to say, because it's so easy.
You know what? You can't say you wouldn't do it, because in that situation, things happen and you don't think twice about it, because you think, well, okay, sounds
it sounds genuine. Or he will bring conversations up with children, so he's starting to reveal information about himself.
So how possibly could he do that?
Because he's a man. He might have children. He's humble. He's not like that. Eventually, when he
he's built this picture for you to say, groomed you basically, right?
Yeah.
He's groomed you.
Once he's got them pictures, he
Mm.
moves to the next stage of offering some training at reduced prices. That's when he starts to make his move, because he's attractive, he's fit, the women are a bit insecure, and he finds out at this point, he through all the messages, he's found out all their weaknesses, why they're on their own, how they became single moms, and he finds all their weaknesses and tries to build their confidence first of all. So they console in him, because he uses the language, stress makes you put on weight, tell me your stress and I'll help you reduce your weight as well.
I've heard that one before.
Have you?
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
So they fully 100% do that. Eventually, when he's got these pictures, that later he uses them as blackmail when he's asking for money. So he's extorted money from women, maybe slept with them once. One of the women did actually end up drinking, and he videoed her and threatened her with the video. Some of the images also were used in the prison system.
Yeah,
he was selling them when he was in prison for a short time. He was selling these women's images to other men in prison. So you can imagine. So safety wise, honestly, I wouldn't have thought a guy like that would go to those lengths. But but he was not only extorting money from them, he was using their shame, their vulnerability, getting the pictures. Not all of them would end up with him as such, but some of them, even if it was just the pictures, they didn't want their family members knowing that they'd sent pictures, and there was the threat of sending pictures to other people. So
if anybody shares your pictures, that is a criminal offense, and there are repercussions to that. And do not feel that you cannot report this, even though you think it's something small as that. Because what happens, it can escalate to something really more bigger, violent,
it can escalate. Thankfully he was incarcerated anyway, so that's where that's ended up. So I think reporting is so important. Don't feel ashamed, because look at the pattern some people have. So just report it.
And do you know how long over a course of time he was doing this?
Several years.
Wow.
Probably the first report's probably 2012 to 2016.
Now you just reminded me of a Netflix movie that I've just watched.
Tinder swindler.
Now this is another point. The women that actually reported this and came forward, I was reading the reviews and some of the comments in some of the other forums. They are now saying, well, they're only making money from this movie anyway. So they got paid off. What they're complaining about. And that guy is now being released, and he is now doing business consultation. It's ridiculous. So someone like him could not get away with that if it was maybe after this bill, or the fact that things are getting more serious now. People are taking more attention, because he got away with that, right?
He did. He threatened people as well, the Tinder swindler. So
he threatened that he would get them. They threatened him and his family.
That's right. And I think the guy I'm talking about was also targeting some Muslim women as well, and he was using the shame factor. So that was reported and it was taken seriously. Actually, it escalated his sentencing even more, because he was emotionally blackmailing them on religious grounds as well, about Allah, and the language he was using was taken very seriously. So do report it, and there is consequences to this type of thing, but also be careful who you share images with if you don't know the person. It's so easy to do these days.
Again, this is where you have these organizations around the whole of the UK and Scotland, where you can reach out and get someone to actually say, well, this is not right. This actually is not correct. What this has happened, the situation is not right. And sometimes it takes someone else to point that out to you, because you just think it's normal. You think that behavior is normal. You think that what they're saying is normal. So, thankfully.
I think sometimes, I mean, from my personal experience, when things happen to me, I had an instinct, but I wasn't sure. I didn't trust my instinct.
Yeah.
Because you're so
because
deep
your
in
confidence is
manipulation.
knocked so much.
Yeah.
And you don't really have that self-belief in yourself. Like you don't have any self-belief that you're actually confident to make even a decision, because you know your decision making even falls apart.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though
That's
you kind of
something
instinctively
God.
know, and that little thing goes in your head, think that's not right, but you don't act upon it because you think, well, just, and then that becomes normal. You just kind of let it go every time, and then every time it gets worse and worse and worse, and it builds up. And
Yeah.
so don't let, especially for the ladies and their safety, don't let it accelerate to such a degree that, you know,
Don't think that you've done. I mean, I think you're not alone. It happens to lots of women, and when you reach out, they're not going to be shocked, if that makes sense, in what you're telling them, because it happens, and it's not your fault. That's the biggest thing. It's really
Yeah.
not your fault. So these type of men are trained in what they're doing for, like I said, they do it for years, some of them.
Yeah.
So
They're
don't
literally
feel,
grooming. Yeah.
yeah, you didn't do anything wrong by being targeted. It's not any woman's fault. And that doesn't mean you should come offline and not go do online dating. Just be wary and be careful what information you give out. That's all, because there are men out there like that. They're the minority, but they're out there. I think that's all. You know,
Yeah.
and if it does happen, don't feel ashamed, and don't overthink, oh, they're not going to take me seriously, this, that. Just keep reporting it. You just have to have a sort of that vision in your head that if I didn't report it, it might get worse.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah.
it. That's keep thinking. And also, this person won't ever learn a lesson either if you
Yeah,
don't report
exactly.
it.
I think you have to be brave enough to actually put a stop to it, because then you think how many more women will go through it, you know? Yeah.
So no, hopefully this is
Yeah.
useful for people.
Yeah.
And when they,
Is there anything else that you'd like to leave the audience with? Anything else that you would suggest to them regarding online safety?
Yeah, I wanted to. I know we've not had time to do the video, but if you go onto Muslim Women's Network on YouTube, Muslim Women's Network, they're based in Birmingham. They've put up a YouTube video about safety. It's not just internet safety; it's everything from clouds to CCTV cameras. It's very technical. It's all about tech safety, and I found it very useful. So I think definitely go on there and
and I'll
have
put a
look
link
at that
in that
video.
in the description. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for educating us and sharing your knowledge and making us aware of what and how things are online, and especially about our safety, which is paramount, and never feel afraid to report anything.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it was nice speaking to you. I hope to speak to you soon. You take care now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Amina. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Okay.